recent times, maybe the last 5, 6, 7 hours, has been about the UEFA Champions League. But before we head straight to the Champions League, we'll start off the conversation with the Nigeria Premier Football League. Well, the last 48 hours have been marked by several rumors, yes, around the coach of Remo Stars Football Club. Talk about Daniel Ogunmodede. Well, there were some quarters in the media space who said that the man had been sacked by Remo Stars, so he has departed that particular football club after what has been a difficult start to life this particular season with the current holders of the Nigeria Premier Football League. Well, after several conversations, rumors, of course, making rounds in the media space, Remo Stars officially came out to debunk such rumors that the coach of the side, the coach of Remo Stars, Daniel Ogunmodede, haven't left Remo Stars, but he's still a part of that particular football club. If you, of course, follow the success of Remo Stars in recent times, one would also look at the fact that they are arguably one of the most consistent side in the last 3 seasons to make it to the top 4, top 3 of the MPFL season. But this particular season have been quite different for them. Remo Stars are currently number 17 with 10 points from 8 matches. As a matter of fact, their last 5 games have come with 4 defeats rather, and just 1 win. So that shows you how poor they've actually been so far this season. But then some would say rumors and fun, but the man has to turn things around. It might just be rumors until things are actually taken seriously.
Well, I think the biggest issue was that he's been absent for quite a few games as well in
with the national team.
So when you look at it, the Remo Stars came out to say the man is currently undergoing a FIFA license, training for his coaching badge and all of that. So I think a lot of distractions could be one of the reasons why Remo Stars are suffering this season. And for me, I would say it would be better for them to part ways now, because I'm very confident of the fact that when Ogunmodede backs that coaching license, he wouldn't want to use it in the Nigerian Professional Football League, Nigerian Premier Football League. He might want to go elsewhere. So what's the need of just keeping him there and just trying to see what happens? So for me, it would be better for Remo Stars to move on now. They're defending champions of the MPF, and it's already looking as if they might not even get to try to defend that title. So it's always going to be a good decision for them to move on now, get in a quality manager to, stable the ship and maybe get Remo Stars back on track. But for now, Ogunmodede is still a good coach, but he's not available for the side. He's currently undergoing training for that, FIFA license. So let's see what happens in the coming days.
Well, of course, a whole lot of conversations surrounding Daniel Ogunmodede and the boys and what they have been able to do in recent years. Yes, one of the of course, consistent coaches. Will it be good to part ways with the man? Has been, of course, bulk of a conversation in recent times. But most times when you get to go to refresher courses, it might also broaden the scope, your level of course, a view in terms of football, particularly in the dugouts. We'll see what happens with Remo Stars. Can the trajectory change for them? Will be the big question right here. But let's quickly move away from that now and talk about, yes, a Super Eagles player. And that has to do with Paulo Nocho, because in recent times, the national team has been currently absent. But even at his football club in Turkey, he's been sending tongues wagging with a whole lot of course, awards left, right, and center. Well, the Nigerian international striker, of course, has been named the Turkish Super League Player of the Month for October. Yes, the towering Nigerian striker also went in that nominal list alongside the likes of Rafael Silva, Andro Onana, Milan Skriniar, former, yes, Inter Milan defender. Talk about Marco Asensio, Okun Kuku, Ederson Morris, Wilfred Singo, and Davinson Sanchez, former Tottenham Hotspur's defender as well. But the man, of course, rose ahead of others to win the October Turkish Player of the Month. The man needed 2 goals and provided 1 assist in 3 league appearances during the month, therefore helping Trabzonspor remain unbeaten with 2 wins and a draw. Already this season, he won the Goal of the Month award twice this particular season, and has so far scored 7 goals. As a matter of fact, he's the highest goal scorer in Turkey. He scored more goals than Victor Osimhen as we speak. The man has registered 1 assist and 7 goals in 11 matches for the Black Sea Storm. Many conversations surrounding whether or not this level of performance can actually see him join the Super Eagles to the AFCON. maybe, of course, the playoff, the FIFA World Cup playoff might not really, of course, be possible for him. But many are looking forward to the AFCON scheduled for December. If it continues this way, should he be considered? But for this is actually, of course, a player who many recent times have said coaches, maybe at Southampton, didn't play to his strength. But at Turkey, the man is actually doing quite well. And at the moment, it just looks like he's enjoying his time with the Turkish league.
Well, definitely. I think I would say I'm very happy with Paul Onuachu. I'm happy that he's found the level where he gets to perform week in, week out, because that's one thing about a footballer. When you get to score goals like this, it gives you the confidence. So for Paul Onuachu, he's finally found a place where everything seems to be working for him at the moment. And I'm happy because at Southampton, he was not even given the playing time that he needed to even adapt to the English culture. But now at Trabzonspor in Turkey, he's doing quite well. He's won multiple awards already. So it shows you that the encomiums are just pouring in left, right, centre for Paul Onuachu. So maybe it's time to look forward to maybe another call up to the Super Eagles of Nigeria, because right now you're looking at our strikers not doing so well. Tula Rokodare was netting goals for Genk, but came to England and he's found it very difficult to adapt to life in England. So he's looking to see if he might not just be that Tula Rokodare we used to know. Talking about Umar Sadiq, is not playing for Real Sociedad. Talking about Akor Adams, the only other player from Nigeria, decent, who is playing so well at the moment. So for Paul Onuachu, I think he's taking his claim to return to the Super Eagles of Nigeria. It's not going to be bad. With these performances, it's not bad to call him up to the Super Eagles of Nigeria.
Now, many would also ask questions. Can Eric Sekou, of course, play to his advantage? We also know how good he is with aerial duels. Can we actually have Nigerian attackers start crossing the ball? Because that's where his strength lies most as a striker. Well, we continue to see the progress of Paul Onuachu before the start of the AFCON, which will be in December. That's, of course, next month, particularly. We look forward to see what happens right there. But let's quickly move away and look at the FIFA Under-17 World Cup. The women's part of it, because at the moment we're having two Under-17 World Cup, the main Under-17 World Cup and the women Under-17 World Cup. Yesterday was the semi-final of the women's Under-17 World Cup. Netherlands, of course, one of those teams who played yesterday, played against Mexico. It ended 1-0 in favor of Netherlands. Tuzani scored, striked in the second half to ensure that the side got the victory at the end of this particular game. And the other result also saw North Korea getting the bats of Brazil Under-17 women. So it means Netherlands will now play against North Korea Under-17, yes, in the finals, while Brazil will also, of course, slug it out with Mexico Under-17 women in the, of course, a bronze third place game. Particularly, Netherlands will face North Korea in the finals, while Brazil will play against Mexico for a third place game. So that's how it is at the moment. We continue to monitor proceedings. Meanwhile, this is actually the first time, according to history, that Netherlands Under-17 women are appearing at the Under-17 FIFA Women's World Cup. They already made it to the finals. That's history for the nation, particularly in the junior cadre of football. But let's quickly head straight now to the UEFA Champions League and look at what happened in the Champions League just yesterday across different centre. We begin with the man, Victor Osimhen, making history after Galatasaray's 3-0 victory against Ajax Amsterdam at the Johan Cruyff Arena in Netherlands yesterday. Well, in the build-up to this particular game, the coach of Ajax said he will actually, of course, find a way to stop Victor Osimhen. And just after making that speech, the man scored a hat-trick yesterday. Well, if you could recall on the show yesterday, we talked about him, of course, scoring 22 goals in Europe. But now, if you do the maths, 2 or 3 goals plus 22, that gives you 25 whooping goals. So that means he has now become officially the only Nigerian player that has scored 25 goals in European competition. Well, the man Martins rather scored 23. So now he's passed Martins in the goal-scoring charts of Nigerian strikers in Europe. He scored 25, and he's still got, of course, many games before the end of this season. Some could also say many games before the end of his career. Well, this man just can't stop scoring. And just like the man that Sekou said, in the last FIFA World Cup group stage qualifiers at the Nest of Champions, he is the best, striker in the world. can this, to a large extent, also further portray that fact? He's also currently the highest goal scorer in the UEFA Champions League. He scored 6 goals now, ahead of Harry Kane and the man Erling Haaland, who scored 5 apiece. Victor Osimhen keeps scoring goals.
And you look at the fact that he missed their first game. Probably
Absolutely.
if he played that game, it would have been a different game for Galatasaray because they lost that game. So I think Victor Osimhen is just proving the doubters wrong. Because as you remember when he was involved in that debacle with Napoli, a lot of teams were just feeling, oh, he's there for the taking. I heard Chelsea offered him some peanuts, just trying to get him to fold his hands and join Chelsea. Manchester United didn't want to get him, when instead for Benjamin Sesko, likes of Liverpool went for Alexander Isak. So right now here Barcelona are lining him up to replace Lewandowski. So I just hope he gets to make that move because it's going to be very, very phenomenal. He's going to enjoy life at the Catalan club. But for Victor Osimhen, I think there's nothing to talk about. He's one of the best strikers of his generation. He knows how to do it. Yesterday I was watching that game. In the first half, Galatasaray were just disjointed. Only Victor Osimhen he was the only player making all those chances, creating all the distractions for Galatasaray. I was happy the chances came in the second half, scored a header and 2 penalties to get those goals for Galatasaray. Now he's the only Nigerian after Yakubu Ayegbeni, who scored for Maccabi Haifa, the hat-trick against Olympiacos in 2002. So now Victor Osimhen, he just keeps breaking those records now. I just want to see when he comes back in November this month. Let's see what happens when we play Gabon in the World Cup qualifier playoffs.
That's great, of course, a match that many looking forward to see. The man has to play in the World Cup. Yeah, that's certainly what we're looking forward to. So the last edition, Nigeria couldn't qualify for the World Cup, so they have to do it this time. And that starts with the playoff against the Gabonese national team. Expecting Eric Sekuchel to, of course, officially release the list before this weekend. So in the next couple of hours, maybe between today and tomorrow, we should have the list officially released by the NFF. Well, away from that now, yes, we also had other games in the UEFA Champions League where Chelsea, of course, played a 2-2 draw against Karabakh. Well, had it been Chelsea lost, it would have actually been another record created, the first England team to lose to FC Karabakh. But it didn't happen. Karabakh actually, of course, came from behind to lead Chelsea at some point after William Estevaux scored in the 16th minute. The man Andrade scored in the 29th. And of course, they converted a penalty courtesy of Jankovic in the 39th minute. And it took Alejandro Garnacho to come off the bench, replacing Jamie Gittens to have that particular goal for the side. And Chelsea drew 2-2 with FK Karabakh. This just shows that no team should be taken for granted in the UEFA Champions League. I could recall yesterday on the radio show where I made mention of the very fact that both Chelsea and Karabakh have the same number of points. Many Chelsea fans were not actually concerned about the points gathered, but we're actually concerned about the quality of the opponents they are facing. But Karabakh stood tall yesterday and were able to get 1 point out of it.
Well, yesterday I watched the game with Blyden. He came in the second half and we talked about it. I tell you now, in the first half, Chelsea were even lucky to survive because I look at that Karabakh side. I think they are much rejuvenated side because people still remember the Karabakh from maybe 5 years ago when they've been thumped by Arsenal and Chelsea. But last year they didn't make it to the Champions League in the Europa League. But if you look at that team, bulk of the teams now, bulk of the players in the team are from foreign countries. They're no longer from Azerbaijan. They have Brazilians, they have Colombians, they have players in that squad now who know how to play football really well. And that's why they've won 2 games this season in the Champions League. For Chelsea, I think it's an opportunity missed for them because they wouldn't have more easy games like this. This is a game where you should have just gotten 3 points. Probably put yourself in the top 8 because that's where you'd get automatic qualification to the next round. When you get to finish lower than that, you'd have to play through the playoffs and then you can get knocked out as early as the playoff round, not even making it to the round of 16. So for Chelsea, I think this is the biggest miss for them. This is the biggest issue for them because I don't understand why Enzo Maresca had to rotate the squad. I don't really know who they're playing in the next game in the Premier League, but I don't still think it warranted because it was a whole different squad. Talking about Jamie Gittens, Tyrick George, players who've never played before. Talking about João Pedro and Tyrick George pairing up front, Jorel Hato and Tosin Adarabioyo playing in defense. That's never happened. So I think he underrated the Azerbaijani side and he spared the price for the consequence now. So for Chelsea, they look forward to the next match and hopefully gain 3 points.
Both sides now are locked on the same number of points, 7 points apiece between the Karabakh and Chelsea, and it just keeps going. maybe the next match day, the narrative can actually change for either side. We're looking forward to that as well. Away from that now, we also had, of course, Inter Milan, Barcelona, of course, rallying, coming up short in that a shock Club Brugge draw. Particularly, it was quite a game of, very concerning game, particularly because not many saw Galatasaray, not many saw Club Brugge rather, of course, playing a 3-3 draw with Barcelona. Started off with Club Brugge scoring as early as the 6th minute. Barcelona responded courtesy of Pau Torres in the 8th. Forbes scored a brace at the 17th minute. Lamine Yamal scored in the 61st minute. The list just goes on and on, but it was a 6-goal thriller, particularly for both sides. And the Spanish Giants, they have to do better in their next game. Inter Milan also fend off Karatal Mate to keep that perfect UEFA Champions League, record for themselves. Just a quick look at the UEFA Champions League results that we saw last night. A comprehensive look at the UEFA Champions League, matches on the screen. Pabos FC defeated the Yellow Submarines of Villarreal 1-0. Karabakh played 2-2 draw with Chelsea. Galatasaray defeated Ajax Amsterdam 3-0. Leverkusen got the better of Benfica 1-0. We also had, of course, Club Brugge played 3-3 draw with Barcelona. Inter Milan defeated Karatal Mate 2-1, while Manchester City, quite a formidable team, got the better of Borussia Dortmund 4-1. Marseille were being defeated by Atalanta 1-0, while Newcastle got the better of Athletic Club 2-0. Well, let's stick with Atalanta because that's where we had, of course, a conversation with Ademola Lookman. The man was subbed off at some point in the game, and it led to an auto session within him and the coach. But the coach later came out after the game to said it was just, of course, normal tempers flaying between both sides, and he also further portrays the fact that, every single player wants to play more for the team, that all of those issues we saw on the touchline have been settled. But we keep having all of these for Ademola Lookman. Another season to be quite concerning about.
Very, very, very concerning because before now, we're not used to seeing Ademola Lookman having issues like this. He's always been a very disciplined footballer. Always keeps his head down, never involved in any rancor off the pitch. Just knows how to go there and do his best. But I think the inability of him to find a new club has played a huge role in what we are seeing this season for Ademola Lookman. He has just one goal in all competitions. It shows you how poor it has been for him. Yesterday, he had a goal ruled out for offside, which also led to the fact that he was subbed or pulled off in that game, I think in the 75th minute or thereabout, and he had that rancor with the manager. I think for Ivan Juric, he needs to trust Ademola Lookman more because Ademola Lookman has not been performing well, but Atalanta has not been performing well either. So it's either you get your best player back on track or you keep suffering. So for me, I think he needs to play Ademola Lookman more. But Ademola Lookman also has to understand that the manager can choose to pull you out of games so it doesn't affect him. Maybe there are clubs looking at Ademola Lookman now and thinking of getting him. What happens when they keep seeing things like this? It's not going to be a good image for him.
Well, of course, we're looking forward to see what gets to happen, particularly at the end of the season. The man, of course, wanted to leave last season, but unfortunately, the deal didn't materialize for the man to leave. Manchester City keeps enjoying in recent matches. Phil Foden had a brace in that game. Erling Haaland scored, as well as Ryan Cherky also having a goal in that particular game. Yes, they made light work over Borussia Dortmund, and that's what it is at the moment. Yesterday, I talked about one man who in recent times have been actually finding it hard to play games. Maybe we'll look for one day to actually, talk about him really well. And I'm talking about, Jude Bellingham. The last about 6-7 matches he's played for the side, he's been coming off the bench. And that has to do with the rancor that happened between his father and the club's authority. The first game of the Bundesliga season, where he was actually playing, starting that particular game, while the Borussia Dortmund player had a red card, and he was actually substituted for a defender. But during, of course, the end of the game, there were visuals that are shown Jude Bellingham's father, the father of Jude Bellingham, rushing to the dressing room to have an altercation with the chairman of Borussia Dortmund as regards why his son was pulled out. And ever since then, all of the matches, Jude Bellingham have been starting from the bench. That's, of course, the conversation at the moment. But let's look at the UEFA Europa League matches slated for today on the screens. Matches returns across different centres. The Europa League fixtures for today. Aston Villa, one of those games. is expected to, of course, take a place later today. Just a quick rundown of matches we're expecting across different centers in the UEFA Europa League, because many are actually looking forward to see exciting matches across different centers. Basel will take on FCSP. We'll also have, of course, Lille play against the opponents later today. We also have Dinamo Zagreb take on Celta Figo. Malmo would play against Panathinaikos. FC Midtjylland against Celtic. Nice against Freiburg. Salzburg would play against Go Ahead Eagles. Stormgrass against Nottingham Forest. We'll also have FC Utrecht against FC Porto. Aston Villa, just like I talked about, of course, will be playing against Maccabi Tel Aviv. Real Betis against Lyon. Bologna against Bern. Braga against Genk. Varos against Ludogorets, Young Boys against PAOK Salonika, Rangers against Roma, Real Betis against Lyon, FC Stuttgart against Feyenoord, while Victoria Plzen will take on Fenerbahce in those games. But for let's look at, of course, Aston Villa, because that's an English side that are looking forward to do better in the second tier of European football. They're number 10 in the table with 6 points from 3 matches. They have to do better to get into at least the top 5 of the Europa League, table at the moment.
I think for Unai Emery and his boys, he knows he has to get the victory in this particular game. I think for Aston Villa, it's been more of a slow start to life for them this season, but they've quickly adapted to getting games, getting wins and all of that. So the last game was a game where they lost to Liverpool. Yeah, Liverpool in a Premier League. But now it's a different ball game for this Europa competition, and now they have to visit, go away from home to visit the top side. So I feel it's going to be a tough game, and for Unai Emery, he has to get his selection right. He has to prioritize the competition at this point, either the Premier League or the Europa League. That's just it, because if you keep playing your top players in one particular competition and then you try to rotate in the other one, it's always going to be that issue for you. So for him, I think he needs to prioritize maybe the Europa League. It's going to be an easier way to qualify for the Champions League than the Premier League, because in the Premier League, you've got the big 6 fighting. So why not just prioritize the Europa League and maybe also get a title for Aston Villa at the end of the season?
Well, the Conference League also returns today, the 3rd tier of European football, and one of the highlights of the Conference League matches that is actually slated for today would be Crystal Palace. Yes, London side who will be in action. Unfortunately, they have to be here. They were actually qualified for the Europa League at the start of the season, but due to, of course, dual ownership by a single entity in Europe, which is actually, of course, a rule that one owner shouldn't be owning 2 club sides playing in the same competition in European football, they had to be demoted to the Conference League. They would face AZ Alkmaar later today at 9 p.m. Nigerian time at the Selhurst Park. But of course, we'll draw the curtains on football conversation here this particular morning. We'll take a very short breather. When we return, we'll look at the world of tennis and, of course, a recap of the basketball matches that happened in the early hours of this morning. A slump in form for one team, and that's the Indiana Pacers. We'll talk more about that on the flip side. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back. It is still Sports Central right here, and Fonitina as well as myself, Utaba Davis, still right here, looking at what's happening in the exciting world of sports. But let's quickly look at all the competitions now in the world of tennis. The Athens Open, where Musetti, of course, survived Stan Wawrinka to keep Turin hopes alive. Kekmanovic also prevails in 3 sets against Dadari. It's the conversation. Brandon Nakashima lost to Marcos Giron in the round of 16 of this particular competition. The likes of Thien defeated Berrettini to make it to the Moselle Open quarterfinals, according to, of course, what we're having at the moment. But our sole focus would be at the WTA finals, because that's arguably the biggest competition in the world of tennis that's going on at the moment. 8 top-seeded players in the WTA rankings are playing against themselves in a round-robin format where 4 players are divided into different groups, and some have already made it to the knockout phase of this particular competition. Amanda Anisimova is where we're, of course, talking about at the moment. Amanda Anisimova embraced the fight to overcome Iga Swiatek in 3 sets and joined the undefeated Elena Rybakina in the knockout stage of the WTA finals. It was the winner takes it all encounter, just like we talked about yesterday, and the Wimbledon and US Open finalist progressed to today's semi-final with a 6-7, 6-4, 6-2 win over the Polish world number 2 in Riyadh is the conversation. Earlier yesterday, we saw Elena Rybakina completing a clean sweep of the Serena Williams group with a 6-4, 6-4 win over Ekaterina Alexandrova, a late replacement for the lady. Talk about Madison Keys, the Aussie Open champion, who won that competition earlier this particular year. But this should be a big upset of fun. Amanda Anisimova getting the better from a world number 1, Iga Swiatek. Quite concerning for Swiatek. It just looks like since he was demoted from that number 1 spot, it has been back and forth for him in terms of confidence, in terms of titles won, and in terms of the level of consistency of winning matches.
Well, I think when the stakes are, very high.
So that means 2 losses and 1 win for her.
Exactly. When the stakes are this high, everyone wants to give their best, and that's what happened yesterday. Iga Swiatek and Amanda Anisimova battling out because they know they have to win it to qualify. So at the end of it, I'll not really blame Iga Swiatek, but definitely there's been that dip in form from her ever since she lost that world number 1 spot. It's not been the same Iga Swiatek we know, who dominated the women's category for over 1 year. So for now, I think it's just about now the women who are left in the competition to see how they can topple Aryna Sabalenka, because I think she's the woman to beat in this particular competition.
Well, about $15.5 million at stake, up for grabs. You got that one as a Nigerian. You shouldn't be broke anymore. But it is what it is, and of course that's why we call them sports person. They have to fight to the end. If you win it, you're getting back a whole lot of money at the end of it as well. But let's quickly look at the world of NBA this morning with action across different center, of course played in the early hours of this particular morning. Bulk of that conversation will be about the very fact that the 76ers, of course, some will somehow have also been fighting for their dear lives. But let's begin the conversation with the Portland Trail Blazers rallying from 22 down to hand the Thunders their first loss with 121 to 119 victory over this side. This is the Thunder's first loss of the season, 8 wins and 1 defeat for the Thunders. Maybe some would also say a temporary setback for the side. The New York Knicks rout the Timberwolves 137 to 114, while the LA Lakers survive a frantic final second for a 118 to 116 win over the Spurs. The Celtic coast a 136 to 107 win over the Washington Wizards, while Mitchell's Cleveland Cavaliers side, of course, defeated the 76ers 132 to 122. But one of the conversations, just to wrap things up, the morning edition of this particular show will be this particular side who have been far from convincing. And I'm talking about a side who, to a large extent, were actually, of course, dominant. The Pacers. They lost to the Brooklyn Nets 112 to 103. As a matter of fact, this is the Nets' first win of this particular season. But the Pacers have really been far from convincing. 112 to 103 they've had. Well, fun. This Pacers side do not have any more pace. I think they've gotten just 1 win this particular season, and that speaks volume of their struggles.
Well, I think it's quite bad that a side where we saw reach the finals of the NBA playoffs last season with Pascal Siakam firing on all cylinders is quite sad. And Pascal Siakam has been part of this team, I think, for about the last 4 games. So there's no cause for excuse now. So it's just about I don't know what they need to do, but they have to find a way to get back to top form.
Well, some are saying they're missing Tyrese Haliburton. We'll talk about that subsequently on our show. Thank you very much. We'll draw the curtains here. And when we return tomorrow, we'll still look more about what happened in the first, second tier of European football, and even conversations surrounding the world of other sports. Thank you very much for returning.
A pleasure as always.
Have a fabulous Thursday. I am Utaba David. And bye for now.